Hey there, I'm a glue stick, so I have one job. I glue kid stuff. So sorry for being jealous of Geico, who does a ton more, like give you 24/7 access to thousands of licensed agents. And Geico has been around for over 75 years and has a 97% customer satisfaction rating. While I've just got mediocre adhesive skills, Geico also has an award-winning mobile app. Uh-oh, arts and crafts time. No eating the glue stick, Miss Lydia!
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
And a very good Thursday morning to you wherever you are. Hope you're enjoying your day and glad you're starting your day with us. Welcome in. We are Golick and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests will join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Trey Wingo, Mike Golick Jr. For those of you that are not watching on ESPN2 but listening on ESPN Radio, Junior, you're wearing a hat. We're indoors. Why are you wearing a hat as we're inside a comfy studio here?
Bomb cyclone, man. You can never be too careful. The way I see it is we're in the casino right now. I got into work at, 3:15 in the morning.
Right.
Hadn't really started snowing yet. I don't know what I'm getting ready to face out there, so I stay ready. You don't have to get ready that way.
Yeah, for those, he doesn't have like a baseball cap. He's got a knit hat on.
A knit cap.
Actually, from the Pinstripe Bowl that you and I wore last year because it was freezing in the makeshift booth that they made for us.
And because the hat was free.
Yeah, and Booger stood in that one this year, and he doesn't handle the cold very well.
No, Tampa guy not really built for that where you are out in that. So felt for him, Kevin, and Mac.
I did hear that you didn't have a brush, like the brush the snow off thing in your car. So I brought one for you today.
Wait, what did you? A brush
thingy?
A brush the snow off thing off your car?
The scraper. Well, it has a scraper on it and a brush.
It's called a snow brush or snow scraper.
Okay,
good.
All right, snow
but
brush.
The brushy thing
Got
that
one of those
you
in
take
there?
I have a snow brush / scraper on my desk for you since you're 28 years old. You didn't feel you needed to have one in your car when there's going to be 12 inches that dump on us right now.
There was foul play involved here because I know I had one in there.
Yeah.
Because I was there talking with you because you reprimanded me about it. So I said, okay, I'm going to remedy this. And then somewhere along the way, someone decided to pilfer it. So between that,
Could be your roommate. Oh, that's right. Wait, you live alone.
There you go.
Man, all right.
I think
Could be who you share the car with. Oh, you don't share it with anybody. Who took it? Who took it?
Listen, I park at your guys' house enough. You got sticky fingers over there.
I got 20 of those scrapers around the house, as you well know. I don't need to take one out of your car. I got scrapers and filters all over the house.
Could have been you. Jake and Sydney make trips back home. I don't really trust any of you guys, all right?
Well, you're not alone there. So we'll figure that out as we go forward. By the way, for those of you that are not on the East Coast, there is something called a bomb cyclone that is hitting everywhere from Florida all the way up to Maine. And it's sort of this massive storm that's coming off the East Coast and affecting everybody. It's affecting us so much that we're going to have Ginger Z, ABC's chief meteorologist, and does a great job on Good Morning America. She worked with us on NFL Live during Super Bowl 48 at downtown. That was in New York. So she'll join us to talk.
She's also mad at both of us.
She probably is, because I don't believe in wind chill, and you apparently don't believe in meteorology.
Well, I got my degree last night online.
There it is.
So
there it is.
I'm a weatherman.
Oh,
funny how that worked.
Oh, that's so bad.
I'm kidding.
Unrelenting trolls.
If you think the bomb cyclone is bad, wait till the meteorological cyclone that Ginger's going to rain down on your house.
Do you think there's like a meteorologist union right now that's somewhere just stewing?
Yes, because you have to get an AMS seal, an American Meteorological Society seal, to be considered a meteorologist.
I want to imagine that as like some sort of cult Illuminati meeting where you have to come in and
like the Da Vinci Code?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're all wearing hoods and masks. There's
I'm not going to say. What was that seal? I printed one of those up last night, too.
You did not.
So I'm good.
You did not. Okay.
I'm all set.
She'll join us to talk about the weather, maybe how it might impact some of the games this weekend. Stu Gotts will join us in the 8 o'clock hour. Adam Schefter will be here at 8:30, and Paul Feinbaum from the SEC Network. He is having none of the fun that the rest of us are having as UCF celebrates their mythical national championship.
Yeah. I really want to see. I want to see a Paul Feinbaum float at the UCF championship parade, just spewing fire and throwing takes everywhere.
Like Drogon,
He'd
be with the Drogon on the parade.
Exactly.
Just having none of it. He is not as enthused.
No, he's not.
As we are. About UCF celebrating this.
He's not playing well in the sandbox here with this.
He does not get along well with others on this topic.
But there are those that are thinking UCF takes it a little too far. We'll get into that in a little bit.
I think UCF's AD probably thinks he's taking it a little too far now that he's got to pay up.
We'll get into that as well. It's one of two parades we'll be talking about a little bit later on the show. For literally completely different reasons.
Yes.
We'll get into all of that and get you set on everything else that's going on in the NBA, the NFL, everything you need to know. But we start, as we always do, with this.
It's time for Off the Top.
Whether you like it or not, it's just beginning.
With Golic and Wingo.
All right, we start off the top in college basketball as Trae Young, Team Trae, recorded his sixth career 25-point 10-assist game in Oklahoma's 109-89 win over Oklahoma State on Wednesday.
Yeah, he goes for 27 points and 10 assists in that one, and it only one of 6 from three-point land, so he wasn't hitting from downtown, but also set a school record for most consecutive 20-point games, recorded his 12th game Wednesday, passing Stacey King and Wayman Tisdale. That's pretty nice, passing that company there. But Oklahoma overall doing better this year, 12th win of the season. You know, won 11 last year. They're scoring 100 at a high clip this year. So it's a pretty strong man leading the way there.
Yeah, 100 points for the 5th time this season after scoring 100 points 5 times in their last 12 seasons.
Yeah.
So things have turned around a little bit. I mean, this feels like the most momentum for Oklahoma basketball since the Griffin brothers were there, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I can't really remember Oklahoma is ranked 7th in the country right now, especially in the Big 12 that's been so usually forgotten as just Kansas's conference, and then you look away as Bill Self and them hoist the crown yet again. A lot of season to go, but Oklahoma making it interesting.
And Trae Young making it interesting, and Kansas losing 3 home games already this year.
Yeah. Now, the Sooners did make it to the Final Four 2 years ago, but you're right. They haven't had that sort of...
That star player kind of hanging their hat on.
Exactly. And to the point about Young's records... his 6th career 25-point 10-assist game, that's the most by any major conference player in the last 20 seasons, and it just took him 13 games to get there. So this kid is really making a difference and off to a great start. We continue.
Off the top.
With more college basketball. How about Marquette's Marcus Howard? Became the 5th major conference player to score 50 points in a game in the last 20 seasons on Wednesday. Only Arizona State's Eddie House, remember him?
Oh, I sure do.
And Kentucky's Jody Meeks have scored more points in a game than Howard's 52 in that span.
Yeah, House had 61 for Arizona State, Meeks 54 for Kentucky. Howard set the Marquette school record for and tied the Big East record for most points in a conference game. Marshawn Brooks from Providence in 2010 scored 52 as well. So Marcus Howard, a big night in the zone, as they say.
Yeah, I would say the most recent outburst of this kind since Doug McDermott back in 2013-14, 45 for the Blue Jays of Creighton, and was 2016 Big East All-Freshman team member. Biggest career high before that was like 34. So guy can ball, no doubt about it.
Not only that, but his performance yesterday matched the Big East record, as you said, for most points in a conference game. So great job by Marcus Howard, and we'll see what happens with him as the season continues to play out.
Off the top.
We move on to the NBA now. Kyrie Irving only had 11 points, but doesn't matter because his Celtics beat his former team for the first time after Boston held Cleveland to a season-low 88 points in Boston Wednesday night.
Listen, what they've done, both sides of this, when you hear from them afterward, they basically don't care. From Boston side, it's like, hey, they don't have all their guys yet. And from Cleveland side, it's, we don't know what we are yet. We got to get Isaiah Thomas into the flow there. There was a guy, because I heard, we had Brian Windhorst on our show, and then I heard him on another show talking about this game coming up, and not so much because Isaiah Thomas wasn't going to play, but he said, watch out for Jay Crowder. Jay Crowder's going to be really he didn't like the way it all ended in Boston. It didn't go well. For Crowder at all. He was 2 of 12. Kevin Love was 1 of 11. I was watching that game. There was just brick after brick going up from those guys. So they were 3 of 23 overall. Cavs 88 points were a season low, and the Celtics just the time and time again are holding teams under 100 points, holding good teams under 100 points and getting the wins. Kyrie only 11 in this game.
I would say I think they've beaten each of the NBA's top 6 teams already this season and held all of them to under 100 points in those outings. So that's been the consistency. Even during the win streak, we said the offense really wasn't doing enough to win. It was the defense that clearly shined in that, and they're number 1 in defensive rating in the league right now, above Golden State, above San Antonio. They can hold that over, but I don't know. Does anyone really buy that this is going to matter when it matters?
I see. That's what I think last night. I mean, listen, the regular season, we know what it is, and we know, especially with teams like Boston, when we thought they lost Hayward, we thought, they're going to be a year away, but they're playing extremely well. I think everybody believes, unless Washington or Toronto or somebody can kind of crash the party here, that it's going to be Boston and Cleveland playing in the Eastern Conference Championship. So the only thing Cleveland really is worried about right now is getting Isaiah healthy and getting him into the rotation.
And I hate using that as the metric, like can you beat Cleveland or can you beat Golden State? But
it is the metric.
That was the overwhelming feeling I got watching last night, because we get entertaining games in the regular season where teams will play with that playoff intensity, and we know last night wasn't that for a number of reasons, but it sort of made me sad, as entertaining as the NBA is and as many great stars as there are, to kind of know that ultimately that doesn't really matter.
Well, that's the difference in the NBA's regular season as opposed to the NFL's regular season or college football's regular season, because of the preponderance of games, you can't single out this game is critical. They're entertaining games and they're marquee matchups, but it doesn't have the same resonance as, hey, we got to win this game in the NFL or college football.
And this game last night, your leading scorer came off the bench in Terry Rozier, scored 20 in only 19 minutes of action. So it was not an offensive juggernaut.
And Mike, to your point about brick after brick, Kevin Love, 1 of 11, Dwayne Wade, 2 of 10, Jeff Green, 3 of 11, Jay Crowder, 2 of 12. And Love actually left that game in the third quarter with an ankle injury. I think it was a right ankle sprain. So that'll be something to watch for. It was nice, though, that, look, they didn't do a video tribute for Isaiah Thomas because he wasn't playing, but they put him up on the Jumbotron there, and you know what? He was very well received. It was really nice to see that that's sort of the way that all played out.
And it seemed like it got squared away with he and Danny Ainge. Remember, he said it wasn't going to talk to him anymore, and Ainge had texted him, and he said it's all good between them. So you hope it is.
Yeah, they smoothed it over, and we've heard more added to the saga around that trade from Kyrie Irving, talking about the fact that they tried to shop him in June.
Phoenix, I think, right?
To the Sun. So all these different things around there from the article that came out. I believe it was Jackie McMullen.
Yeah,
was that the article that came up on .com? So some interesting stuff there as the NBA continues to add to what really is and should be the business model. If you know what the outcome's going to be, you better at least make us care about the characters, and that's what they've done really well.
They certainly have. And the other issue there going forward, obviously, is what you were talking about, Mike, with keeping people under 100 points.
Yeah.
The issue for Cleveland is when they don't score 100, they don't win.
They don't do well.
Yeah, I think they're 0-5 this year when they don't get to 100 points, and obviously they did not get to 100 points last night.
Off the top.
And we move on to Off the Top, and as expected, at least for one of them, it was somewhat a little bit of drama about the other one, but both USC's Sam Darnold and UCLA's Josh Rosen, the top 2 draft-eligible quarterbacks according to Mel Kiper Jr. and Todd McShay, within minutes of each other yesterday, both declared they will be in the 2018 NFL Draft.
So, I mean, you wonder, because a lot of talk about Sam Darnold, maybe he should go back the way he played this year. But there's that thought process. If you're going to be a top 3 pick, say a top 5 pick, I mean, because they say go back and get seasoned and get better. But I guess the other thought process is you're going to be a top 5 pick, get on a team and learn the NFL process and learn the NFL game. Why would you go back unless you want to try and improve your stock from 4 to 1, from 3 to 1? Top 5 pick, it's almost tough to say. I listen, because a lot of people didn't think Michael Vick was ready to come out and go to the NFL as a redshirt sophomore, got his 3 years in. He's going to need a number 1 pick in the draft. What are you going back for? I don't think there's any real reason to go back.
I'll get my seasoning while I'm getting paid.
Yeah.
I don't need to worry about insurance policies and crap like that. Like, give me the real money. I'm sick of getting paid in IOUs by the NCAA.
Yeah. That's what it seems to be, because a lot of people do think another year for Darnold, and, we've seen guys coming out early. Remember, Pete Carroll, what was it was it for Sanchez when he was kind of jumped him?
Yeah,
when Pete Carroll was coaching over there.
To come back for another year.
Yeah, another year, and it usually doesn't work out well when you're coming out early like that. And while Sanchez's teams went to the AFC championship games, he wasn't a big time throwing quarterback when that was going on. And you could see it didn't work out all that well for Sanchez. So a lot of people thought Darnold should go back. But I guess, like I said before, if you're going to be one of the top picks, I don't really know why you would do it.
Well, that's sort of the interesting thing there is what Sanchez is doing now is mentoring Mitchell Trubisky in Chicago. And I don't know if you saw that in the game they played at home against Cleveland. I think it was week 16. They had Sanchez wired for sound for some reason, or maybe it was Trubisky, and he was picking up the audio when Sanchez was talking to him. He was giving him a little pep talk on the sidelines and doing it in a perfect John Gruden impression. It was really, really good. But to that point, Trubisky came out early, and now he's being mentored by a guy who came out a year early. But I think what we're seeing here with Darnold and Rosen and Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield and maybe Mason Rudolph and maybe Lamar Jackson, all these quarterbacks in this year's draft, I think that's why Trubisky came out, because he was the first quarterback taken last year, second pick overall. I'm not sure he would have been a first rounder had he come back and stayed for the 2017 season and played in the 28 and been a part of the 2018 draft, because he would have lost a lot of his weapons at North Carolina, and then the plethora of quarterbacks that you have ready in this year's draft. So he made a great business decision.
Yeah, he did, and it is that business decision that becomes more real when you get near the finish line. Like, these guys can look over the edge and finally see the life that can be theirs. It's a lot different when you talk about it during the season. I remember Will Fuller at Notre Dame during the year made that comment sort of, I think, offhand that, he was going to come back. He wasn't worried about it, and then you get the draft grade after the season, and then you start talking to your agents and your family, and these things start to materialize in a way that makes it really hard for anyone on like a human level. If you were shown this could be your life, this could be all the money, this could be the way you could work, and you know what, if you've got some deficiencies, we can work them and coach them out there whilst you're getting paid. Pretty hard to ignore.
Well, guys have 11 more days to decide if they're going to enter the draft or not. It's January 4th, January 15th is that magical day of when they have to decide what they're going to do. So the two big names, we've got Saquon Barkley, obviously, and these two big names, and it's going to be a whole lot of quarterbacks going on. And now comes the fun, because they will not put on pads again until training camp, yet so much more will be said about them when they're practicing now and doing everything in shorts and a T-shirt.
Well, we got pro days coming up, and then you got the underwear Olympics, the combine, and all that kind of stuff. And that was indeed off the top. We'll get more into this now with these two quarterbacks. What do you feel about the January 15th deadline, by the way? It seems rather arbitrary.
Yeah. I know a lot. I don't think a lot of coaches like that a lot, especially they see that for players, just like we're seeing now, that going to bowl games, you see that on the horizon of what they're kind of preparing for. So you have to decide then. I mean, I love what the NBA did. The NBA, you could declare, you can go through workouts, and then you can decide to come back. I mean, they give kids options. I mean, for the NFL, what you basically do is you put your name in, you submit your name, and then as a GMs, I don't know who really does the evaluation process.
Yeah.
I think it's some GMs or former GMs or somebody does the evaluation process, and they let these guys know. They say you're slotted for the first round, or maybe 1 through 3, or hey, you should go back to school.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're a mid-round, a mid-draft guy. So they kind of give you an idea, and then you just basically have to go off that. And if you sign to go January 15th, that's it. That's it. You're done. You can't come back. And coaches certainly need to know that for the recruiting trail of, okay, we lost this guy, we need to fill his spot. But for the player himself, that's what I said. I kind of like basketball now. They let you kind of go through the process a little bit and then come back if you really don't like what you see.
The sports are just impossible to compare in that regard. You could never do that with football.
You couldn't do it.
It wouldn't be possible. So it's great that the NBA allows it. But for football, we know as well as anyone, you've got to be all in on this process. It's turned to you're measured by, I think, not as much being, how well you do in specific drills matters in a lot of positions, but it's how well prepared you appear coming off that. How well and how seriously do you take this process? And for Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen, where the physical drills aren't going to matter as much, it's how prepared are you for the interviews. For Josh Rosen, how prepared are you to answer a lot of the questions that anonymous sources are already popping off out there? Because I don't know if you guys have seen this. Anonymous sources are saying Josh Rosen is using football to make money.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that about?
I mean,
isn't that why you play a professional sport?
And you
make money?
You play it. Theoretically, you'd like to think people enjoy it, but you know what? A nice big paycheck comes along with it, and there's nothing wrong with that at all.
There's two parts to this equation. To your point,
you play to win the game,
right?
But then you play professional sports to win the games and get money.
You get paid.
There's nothing wrong with that.
If you're good enough to do anything, you don't do it for free.
Yeah. It's exactly right. So now we have the two quarterbacks out, and here's going to be the thing, and it's something we don't know. It's something we don't know. This is going to be, I'll tell you, the book right now is where we are. And I know we have to forget the underwear Olympics, because if you're a guy.
By the way, that's the combine.
That's
for people
the combine.
That don't know what we're talking about. We refer to it as the underwear Olympics.
I would like, I think there's a market for an actual underwear Olympics.
I would think so as well.
There's a market for everything.
As we talked about, pro day, combine, then all these individual workouts. If you're wearing shorts and a T-shirt and you don't throw the ball well, there's an issue. So that shouldn't be the issue. It's when you get to the whiteboard. It's when you're looking at film. It's how you break down that kind of has these people evaluating. But I'm going to tell you the breakdown, the overall breakdown of Rosen and Darnold right now. Rosen is better right now, but Darnold, the thought is he's better 10 years from now.
Well,
that's the thought process. I always say you don't draft for next year, you draft for the next 10 years. So if you think Darnold has the higher ceiling, then that's probably where you're going to go instead of the flash if you get it early on.
Well, to that point, I mean, some people are wondering, hey, Sam Darnold played much better last year than he did this year. Obviously, some of that was because of the way he lost some of his weapons from a year ago.
Oh, and his old line. He only got sacked 6 times 2 years ago. I think he got sacked 21 times this year.
And obviously he didn't play his best game against Ohio State, and a lot of people are questioning why is he coming out now. Well, to your point of what you just said, Todd McShay says even with all the flaws in his game this season, if he had to choose between these two, he'd still take Darnold.
If I had to win a game tomorrow, I would take Josh Rosen. If I had to bet on the next 10 years, I would bet on Sam Darnold. When you look at Tom Brady, the Mannings, Aaron Rodgers, all the great ones, Drew Brees, he has a lot of those qualities that you look for in a quarterback. And while he's not as developed, and I do think he would have benefited from playing another year at the college level at USC, I just think that if you're looking 10 years down the road, I would bet on him.
And that's the issue, right?
That's the tough thing to project. You could say that and you draft on that, but the shinier piece, quite honestly, is Rosen. I think Rosen's a better quarterback right now. I think Rosen's the best passer coming out in this draft. He's that shiny, as I said, the shiny-looking guy, but there are the questions coming out about him, and this is the onion, the layers of the onion that get peeled back, especially on a quarterback, gets crazy from now until April.
And for Josh, it's going to be double so because of already the things that have been stockpiled throughout his career. The interesting thing I heard Todd on Spain and Fitz last night saying that he had heard from enough people that he trusted to where he was comfortable speaking this out, but that there were questions. We obviously know the ones about Josh's interest outside of football and how the myopic world of professional football doesn't really reward you having outside interests, but questions about how he treated his teammates and how he treated people inside the building. And to me, that's the part more worth exploring if you're these teams diving into that. And that's the stuff they will. They go around the building, they ask people, they do this in the interviews, so they're going to find out. And to me, that's much more important.
Well, look, this is, as we said, the beginning of this process, and there's going to be more about it, and there'll be more scrutiny over guys like Baker Mayfield. To some of your points about Josh Rosen, I don't care that he had a jacuzzi in his college room. I think that's tremendous, but some people, you're right, seem to have an issue with that. And this will be the process going forward with all these guys, and I always say, let's get one draft now and then the actual draft and see how different they are when no games are played between those two things. A reminder that Junior will be appearing at the AutoZone on 1959 Metropolitan in Atlanta, Georgia this Sunday, January 7th, beginning at 10 a.m. and be one of the first 50 fans there to receive a special gift. Get in the zone, AutoZone. That's part of our national championship coverage where we will be in Atlanta for the national championship game between Alabama and Georgia on Monday. But you know what? That's not the only team those two teams are not the only one that think they're going to be a national champion. We've got that parade for one team and another parade for an entirely different reason that we'll get into. Part of what the national championship UCF is claiming is they're going to have a parade. They're going to have a parade celebrating their national championship this Sunday going through Disney World.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Which is right in their backyard in Orlando, Florida. Again, and they've been all in on this. Danny White on the field after they won the Peach Bowl and beat Auburn, who beat both Alabama and Georgia, said national champs. They've changed their Twitter feed to say undefeated national champs, and they have gone all in, not only on the parade, and they're going to hoist a banner, and they're going to have a trophy. They're also going to pay the bonuses that were in all the coaches' contracts, which, by the way, I think that is the coolest thing out of all of this. If you're going to celebrate this mythical title, you might as well do it all the way. All those coaches are getting the bonuses that were in their contracts if they had actually won the national championship.
All the people that want to see players get paid are really excited. The coaches are going to get even more money.
Because these coaches get to make more money, and they're all leaving to go to Nebraska.
So they gave themselves a mythical national championship, but they're getting real money out of it. So, listen, here's the school. I get it to a point of what they're doing.
Do you have any problem with the parade?
Why do I have a problem with the parade? No, it's Sunday. It's at Disney. They're going to put up a banner. They put on, as you mentioned, on their site, that they're national champs. I don't imagine we're going to also pay the coaches their bonuses was in the top priorities of that. That may have kind of come in later and when the snowball was rolling.
I feel like, that was one you get the hype beast going in the room and everyone's like, we're going to call ourselves national champs. You know what? We should have a parade. And let's hang the banner up. And then it's the dude in the back of the room. It's like, pay us our bonuses.
Yeah.
And then the room goes silent. And Danny White quickly realizes the error of his ways because he is now paying a bunch of coaches that will not be coaching any more games for UCF.
That's the thing. They're not coaching for UCF anymore. They didn't really win a national championship, and he's shelling out a bunch of bonus money to those guys who will gladly take it.
That's just clean living.
Oh, my gosh. I don't have – why do I have a problem? Here to me is going to be the fun. I think it only works when one coach asks to the national championship. If Kirby Smart wins, congrats to him and the whole deal. I get, but you know where I'm going with this. If Alabama wins a championship and Nick Saban is doing the post-national championship winning team coach conference, and you know what's going to happen. Coach, what do you think about UCF saying that they're the real national champions? I just can't wait for that. Because, listen, I think Nick Saban will be very diplomatic. I think he'll handle it fine. But it will be how far are the reporters willing to dig into that? Yeah. Nick, would you be willing to say you're a co-national champ? Because,
would you be willing to play them?
That, to me, is going to be the best of all the fireworks to get, because I really think Nick will handle it really well until he keeps getting goaded and if somebody does that, if somebody goes that far. We'll see. But all this other stuff, why do I care? We know they're not the national champs. They know they can think it all they want. They're not the national champs. So, and it's always been, when it was just the polls that did it, it was all mythical national championships anyway.
Well, everyone was just claiming stuff anyway. Yeah. Alabama claimed a title in 1941 when they finished ranked 20th in the nation.
Yeah. So, we think we're national champs. Make a banner.
Yeah, I don't understand why people are so upset about it.
No.
I think that people understand that this is just for them, and I don't think anybody else is going to go, wait a minute. Is there a real rift here? No. Look, they played their schedule. They got their chance against a big guy, and they beat him. Good for them. Revel the hell out of it. I think that's amazing. I got no problems with that whatsoever.
Agreed. Here's what's not going to happen. They're not going to become the Power 6, and it's not going to change. It's not all of a sudden they're not going to 8 teams next year, so this doesn't happen again. That's not happening. So if you're looking for the concrete thing to come out of this to say something's got to change, it's not going to change yet. It's not, and it wasn't going to go to 8 because of this. This would be one of the reasons if it eventually goes to 8, but it's not going to 8 next year, and it's not changing the power. Remember all those games
that P6
on the first down change. They put the P6.
They put it on their helmets too.
They're trying to become. They're not going to. That's not happening. So it's the Power 5. It's not going to be the Power 6, and the whole system isn't changing next year because of this. So anybody that thinks, well, this is going to lead to that, in my opinion, it's not going to. But hey, enjoy this. You guys had a fantastic season. Enjoy it.
You know what's interesting, though, is we talk about all the time how the preseason polls likely skew a lot of what we think about teams going into the year. And Jeremy Darlow, who has written a couple of books about, the idea and importance of branding in sports. If you're UCF, you're raising your public profile in a big way this season and right now. Does this help your perception going into next year? I don't know what their team, the prognostication around their team is looking towards next year, what they bring back or anything like that. But going into it, if you tell me that pollsters won't think a little bit longer about rating UCF maybe a little bit higher, and that helps them out a little bit in the game here, then this is a come up.
This is great marketing for them. We're talking about it because they're doing it. If they weren't doing it, we wouldn't be talking about it. So to that point, I give Danny White, the AD, and the staff there all the credit, and the administration for making sure that they keep this going as long as they possibly can. So that's one end of the spectrum. Remember, in 2015 they went 0-12, and in 2017 we had them go 13-0, and there were over 50 players that were on that 0-12 team that somehow turned it around 2 years later and went 13-0. So that's great. So that's one parade. Coming up, we'll get to the other parade, plus the superstar athlete that wishes he was a weatherman. That's next. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio, ESPN2. We roll on Golic and Wingo. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic, Mike Golan Jr., presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests will join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Just to wrap up the conversation we were having about UCF and their parade and their mythical, although wildly entertaining, national championship that they're celebrating. And good for them. They should be all in. They beat everybody that was on their schedule, and they took down the team that beat both the teams that are playing for the actual national championship. So we're all fine with that. But in terms of raising their profile, okay, here is their non-conference out of the All-American Conference schedule for next year: at North Carolina, Florida Atlantic, Pittsburgh, and South Carolina State.
So really the two that matter there are North Carolina and Pittsburgh. And then in 2019, they play Stanford. So they have upped it some. And to your point, Mike, and I agree with it, because we do have the preseason polls out there. Now, should that influence the 13 people who decide this? No, it shouldn't, but they're human beings, so you never know if it does or not. UCF certainly is going to be there. They were nowhere near the top 25 last year in preseason. They will be this year, right? I mean, they're just going to be. I'm with you. I don't know who's all coming back, but they're going to get that love of being in the top 25 in preseason, and they do play. Like this past year they played Maryland, but Maryland wasn't very good, so they're going to play North Carolina and Pitt, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, going to be interesting. I keep wondering, to that point, the preseason polls, that feels like the one place where you can sort of game the situation, because a lot of that is certainly about who you bring back, but it's perception coming off the year, and no one is going to roll into this offseason with more momentum than UCF.
Right, and that's what they're doing. They're building their brand, for lack of a better term, and we salute them for doing it. So that's part of the story we talked about with these two parades. They're having theirs Sunday for going 13-0.
Right.
There's another parade that's going to be happening Saturday for going 0-16.
Yeah.
The Browns are going to be well, not the Browns team.
No, the Browns aren't.
The fans themselves are throwing themselves a parade for the Cleveland Browns going 0-16, and it's going to be a parade around their home stadium.
Yeah.
Get it in a big donut, as in zero.
As in zero.
Your thoughts on the impetus behind this parade?
Oh, I'm not a fan of this at all. I'm not a fan for celebrating this. And I was conversing with a couple of people on Twitter who were going to be part of this, saying, "Hey, as a fan, it's our release. It's cathartic for us." And as I said, fine. I said, you are all asking me my opinion, and a lot of times my first opinion will come as a former player, is I want no part of this. And now the players aren't going to be part of this, but even as a player watching this, I wouldn't be very happy about it. But then again, the fans could sit there and say, hey, we pay our money. We can boo if we want. We can have an 0-16 parade if we want. If you guys would win a game, we wouldn't be having an 0-16 parade. And you know what, from the fan side, you're right. Go ahead. I'm not saying there's no way I would have this parade. You're asking me my opinion, and more from a former player side. I'm not a big fan of it. But, man, if it makes you all feel good, and supposedly 6,000 people RSVP'd on Facebook.
That's the amazing
and they're going to go to the thing. There's going to be like 25 floats at this thing as well. Hey, listen, if it all gets everybody together, and supposedly there's going to be some money raised and donated to some charities as well, and if that happens, that's obviously a great thing as well. So go ahead, do your thing. I'm just saying I'm not a big fan of it.
After party in the flats, they're back. I don't know if you've heard the flats are back.
Flats are back. Yeah,
people,
your sister knows about that.
Go check that out after. Yeah. Could you imagine if they were able to coax like one player to just come and make a speech at the end? Is there any easier way to get cut this offseason than to be the player liaison for the 0-16 parade?
Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it, supporting our efforts. That's not good.
Thanks. I'll see you guys in Jacksonville next season.
Yeah. To that point, they have at least 25 floats, but the organizers want to shoot for 27 floats, because that is, to them, what better way to honor the 27 quarterbacks who have started for the Cleveland Browns over the last 18 years. And here's something that I find fascinating about this. Again, I'm with you. I don't understand, but if you feel like you need this, fine, whatever. I'm not into it at all. It's not easy to raise this kind of money for this parade. But Chris McNeil, who apparently has been one of the driving forces and the guy who came up with the idea for the parade, says that on their GoFundMe page, over $7,000 has been donated by Excedrin, a company that makes headache medicine.
Yeah.
Which, if you think about it, with what they're trying to celebrate in a weird way, makes all the sense in the world.
And this is where marketing and advertising come into play. It's like, what can I do to improve our brand off of this? So Excedrin did that, and then you just see there's so many .com dating.
I'm sorry, we should point out Farmers Only has also jumped in board to sponsor the parade. So there's got Excedrin.
Well, that's where I was going next.
Yeah.
Who jumps in? How do you take advantage of a situation like this? And there's 1,000 dating apps out there, right? FarmersOnly.com. How about that? The dating website Farmers Only has jumped on board, and they're sponsoring it. On their FarmersOnly.com page, it says you don't have to be 0-16 to join FarmersOnly.com. And it's awesome.
It's all about the brand.
Listen,
what do we say? It's
really
all about
underrated
the brand.
dating app too.
Oh, really? Farmers Only? Been on that?
You know.
Okay.
Well,
Play to your strengths.
I don't know. That's why we're asking you.
That's why I wore the vest.
But I mean, listen.
My new profile picture.
I guess that's at the end of the day. Here we go. It's not harming anybody, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of it, but if these people go out there and have a ball, have a ball. If others can jump on it with their ideas and gain something out of it, so be it, man.
Look, I've said this a million times. I said it in 2008 for the Detroit Lions, and I said it again last year when I thought the Browns were going to do it. And I said it again this year. I would not wish 0-16 on my worst enemy. So, I mean, that is excruciating. So if this is what they feel like they need to blow off some steam, I get it. I totally get it. I personally, as a fan of that team, would not want to be a part of something like this, but that's not my pain to bear. That's not my burden. So if they feel like they need this, go ahead. And talk about the irony of it, or coincidence, however you want to play it, of a big loop around the stadium that forms a zero. Temperature on Saturday for the parade expected to be around 0 degrees.
Oh boy!
See, that would automatically exclude. If I was a fan that was flirting with it, and I saw that, like, you know what? I can still be 0-16 and inside and warm and drunk there. I don't need to be drunk outside and cold with you guys.
There's just more and more to this. You see the lines about the farmersonly.com. Again, it's a dating site. Finding your true love at this parade probably makes some sense, because then you guys can suffer together as Browns fans for the rest of time, and it will be a great story to tell your two kids at some point. Little Hugh and little Jackson will probably love hearing about the time their parents met at an 0-16 parade. That is awesome.
What's the conception story behind a Browns fan? Like, we hear so many Super Bowl babies and stuff like that. Like, what's the occasion where you decided to mark the birth of your child as a Browns fan during this era?
9 months from Saturday, we want to go to Cleveland and see what's going on. Kid, let me bounce you on my knee and tell you when you were conceived and why.
Your father met your mother next to the Farmers Only float and had a steely look in his eyes that day. That
the sea was angry that day, my friends. By the way, somebody's got to be conflicted about all this. Is the Browns long snapper Charlie Hewlett? He's also a UCF alum. So, where do his loyalties lie in his parades?
Go to Disney.
Go to Disney, baby. Get out of 0. Go to Disney and celebrate the good.